Welcome to Discovering the Law. My name is Attorney Lucy Rivera, and this program can be viewed at our blog, www.discoveringthelaw.net, for content of this interview and prior interviews. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Mark Reilly, who's the Chief Legal Counsel of Governor Deval Patrick. Attorney Reilly, welcome to our program.
Thank you
so much for coming and accepting our invitation. And
of course, it's great to be here.
You're the legal counsel of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yes, apparently.
It's a big role. What does the Chief Legal Counsel office do?
Sure. So our office consists of about 5 attorneys, myself, the Chief Legal Counsel. We have a deputy chief and 3 deputies. And our primary responsibilities are to advise the governor, the lieutenant governor, senior administration officials on all legal matters that come before the office. So it can include everything from legislation that we might have pending, and a number of bills that of course come to the governor's desk. He seeks our office's involvement and review in terms of each of those pieces of legislation, and looks to us to provide advice about that. We also do oversee litigation that the Commonwealth is involved in. They may be a party in a number of different significant suits, and our office will work with the Attorney General's office and a number of our state agencies in connection with those litigation matters, and in a variety of other legal issues that arise almost as it would in any other legal setting. So for example, we may have employment-related matters that arise through state government, and many other issues that come forth, and we're asked to weigh in and try to assist the governor and our team in connection with each of those things.
It seems very diverse. You oversee the bills that are pending that are pending in the legislation. Sure. You also work with other agencies,
right,
and you advise the governor as to different issues.
Absolutely, it is incredibly a diverse job, and as I've often described to others, as I'm getting prepared for the day, I always think that I understand sort of the top 3, 4, 5 priorities of the day, but by 11 o'clock, it's been replaced by 5 other new things that me and the other members of the team, are responsible for getting a handle on and being ready to provide advice.
So in that vein, as Chief Counsel for the Governor, Chief Legal Counsel, what is your day-to-day, what are your responsibilities in your role?
Right. So as Chief, I oversee, our small staff, and each of our deputies are assigned to the various executive offices and agencies throughout state government. So, whether it's Health and Human Services, Department of Transportation, you name it, each of those agencies has a specific liaison within our office, who's in close touch with the attorneys and the other staff members in each of those agencies. My job is to oversee, our entire staff and the entire, and in some ways, the entire legal staff within state government, to just assure that all of us are providing the best service we can, to each of, whether it's commissioners, secretaries, and in my case, folks in the governor's office and the governor. And so, so much of my responsibility is sort of overseeing each of them and all of the work that they're doing. And in addition to that, one of the other sort of key differences that the Chief Legal Counsel gets involved in, beyond what our other lawyers do, is the judicial nominating process. And so we, among the responsibilities of the chief, is to consider potential candidates for appointment to the various judicial roles, the various courts of the Commonwealth, and make recommendations to the governor about individuals whom he may be interested in nominating to become judges. And so, that's a piece of the job as well.
So let's talk about that, if you would, for a bit. That's a very important role that you're very involved in. What is the process and the step-by-step and your role in this important decision-making?
Thank you. Yeah. So the first step in the process is there's a group, the Judicial Nominating Commission. They're a group of 21 volunteer attorneys who provide an immense amount of work on a volunteer basis to help us at first simply vet and consider a number of applicants for any given vacancy. And so that group is sort of the first group to take a look at the wide variety of applications for each of the vacancies. And so, and we can have upwards of 10, 20, 30, or even many more applications for each vacancy. So it's a lot of material. We ask, 70, 80 questions on the application. It's a very comprehensive application. And so our JNC members, we call them the JNC, the Judicial Nominating Commission, they spend a considerable amount of time reviewing all that application materials, interviewing candidates, conducting other due diligence, meaning they contact various attorneys and others who might have had dealings with that applicant to assess the strengths of any given applicant. And ultimately, their process tends to narrow down, to a set of sort of the top candidates that move through the JNC step, and then that group of candidates is then forwarded to our office for review. And so at that stage, that's where myself and the JNC executive director, we work then to further interview candidates, conduct our own due diligence further, and gather further information about the applicants, with ultimately moving toward trying to make recommendations to the governor.
And so what are the challenges of working at the Legal Counsel's office of the governor?
Yeah, I'd say, over time, as we've thought about, as I've had a number of different legal positions over the years, I think one of the key differences in this role than many others is just the variety of things that are coming in, and the importance of prioritizing the items that are coming in, and having to constantly reassess the new things, and how that, so as I said earlier, if when I think I know what the priorities are for the day, then life happens, and the day's events happen, and new things occur, whether it's in a state agency or even elsewhere. It might be something outside a state agency that nevertheless the governor would have some involvement in possibly addressing, and so that becomes the next thing that our staff and other members of the governor's office team need to suddenly focus on to address. So I think by far the biggest challenge is just the volume, and the variety of items that are happening on any given day, and and the importance of our team trying to get a handle on whatever is occurring as fast as we can, so that we can provide sound advice to the governor and the team.
Well, that sounds very busy.
Yeah.
And there are things that you enjoy about working at the Legal Counsel. It's a very unique opportunity. So
Absolutely.
what are those things?
Yeah, it is absolutely unique. There's I know a very small number of folks who've had an opportunity even to do this work.
That's right.
And I'm very fortunate, to have had the opportunity to do it. But by far, I think the piece that I've enjoyed the most is the opportunity to sort of see the governor and work with the governor as he's grappled with the variety of issues, that he's had now in his 5 years as governor. And the part that I enjoy the most is really just seeing, how he thinks, how he approaches things, and it makes me proud, to work with him and for him. Because what he's focused on, in my view, are the right things. When we're dealing with a difficult situation, he wants to know how is this situation going to impact individual people. He cares about people. He genuinely cares about the impact of the variety of decisions that that come before him, but he thinks about it always through the lens of how is this impacting everyday people. And I'm not sure that all of our political leaders do that. And frankly, I'm concerned that sometimes they don't. And but I've had the privilege of serving alongside him and observing him approach every new issue with exactly that same focus, and trying to make the best decisions collectively, to help people in Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mark. That's a good insight as to the office. People don't know what goes on at the Chief Legal Counsel's office, and it's a really important job. It's really important to keep abreast of the issues, and that's where very important decisions and judicial appointments, which is one of the most important roles that
Absolutely.
you have.
Yeah. I mean, we really do touch on a lot of a variety of the issues that are going on, within the office. We're obviously part of a team, a larger team as well. So, the governor's, the legal staff is just one part of the governor's team. He's got, a press team, a communications team, government affairs, team as well. It's responsible for interacting with the legislature and carrying the governor's message, through to the legislature. He's got policy staffers, who dig in on the policy questions and gather information, to provide advice in connection with policy pieces. So, we are just part of, an overall team, and each of us have a role to play in trying to inform him, of each of the perspectives that, and the expertise that each of us have as background, and, with the goal of just providing him the best information we can so that he can make good decisions. And, part of our job in the legal office is to work collaboratively with each of the members of, of the team, and, as part of my everyday, work, and the other members of my staff, we're constantly working with our press team, our Gov Affairs team, and everyone else, on the team in order to just, work together and try to come up with the best information and advice we can.
So for the people who are viewing us, today you're watching Discovering the Law, and our guest today is Attorney Mark Reilly. He is the Governor's Chief Legal Counsel, and we're learning what the Chief Legal Counsel's office works on day to day. And Attorney Reilly, talk to us about the priorities of the Governor's office for this term that he's concluding. What are some of the priorities he's working on?
Right. So at this point, the governor is very focused on a variety of kind of chief priorities. They include, of course, job creation, reducing healthcare costs, expanding educational opportunity and closing that achievement gap, and then also trying to end youth violence. And so these are, four of sort of the chief priorities that he has stressed for the entire administration to be focused on and working to address each of those things.
Attorney Reilly, let's expand on these priorities. In terms of job creation, what is the plan and this term that he's got left 3 years?
Absolutely. And so we really, in some ways, Massachusetts is doing much better than the rest of the country, and and our job growth has outpaced the vast majority of states nationwide, which is a good thing. Our unemployment rate, has continued to improve as well, and and we find ourselves our unemployment rate is significantly below the national average. All of that is great, great news and a good advance. But that doesn't help, the folks who right now are looking for work, and we know that a lot of folks continue to be out of work, been out of work sometimes for significant amounts of time, and they're trying to land on their feet again. And so we're going to keep on doing exactly what's been successful in reducing that unemployment rate, and it's a variety of objectives. Everything from continuing to invest in a number of areas that are strengths for Massachusetts, things like the clean energy sector, the life sciences sector, where our economy has great strengths already and fantastic companies, but we can expand on that and take advantage of some of the other great educational institutions we have, in Massachusetts. Also investment in infrastructure, continuing to work on roads and bridges, and which not only improve, the state of our transportation system, but also help provide jobs, to folks who in the construction industry who are looking for work. And so, and at the same time, even now as another element of this job creation effort, the governor in his most recent budget proposal, so as you know, he just proposed his budget proposal for next fiscal year, which will begin in July. And one element of that is a proposal that would integrate better our community college system. And one of the areas as we've looked closely at job creation that we've discovered is that we actually have tens of thousands of job openings right now, but still tens of thousands of people out of work. And for some reason, we've had trouble just matching those up and getting that filled. And we think that one of those significant reasons is a skills gap. Unfortunately, for some of those jobs that are vacant right now, we need to continue to develop our workforce, train our workforce for those jobs that are vacant. And so one of the initiatives the governor has in his current budget proposal is to rely upon and utilize that community college system, where skills training has consistently been an important part of their work, and try to integrate that in a better, more coordinated way with employers and others who are looking for those highly skilled that highly skilled workforce and try to close that skills gap.
And in that way of community colleges, is that part of the education expansion?
Absolutely. So it's an element.
Priorities.
Exactly. So it's also a piece of, and many of these initiatives, I'm sure it doesn't surprise you to hear that they overlap in some ways, and and any complex problem usually needs a number of people and entities involved in solving it. And so this is one that sort of overlaps both with job creation and closing the achievement gap. The governor's been, focused, of course, for years on making sure and ensuring that Massachusetts remains a leader in education. And so we have, most recently, the governor has proposed significant, in fact, this most recent budget year that he just proposed for this upcoming year, the highest level of education funding in the history of the Commonwealth in his budget. And he's remained, even despite the challenges within the budget and sort of the economic realities of the last several years where our budgets have been reduced as the economy has struggled. He has, I think, demonstrated as a priority of his, that commitment to education by finding the resources to continue to fund education at that high rate, knowing that that's the bridge, for so many people in moving on to a better life.
And the other priority you mentioned was youth violence and at risk. What is the plan to identify those problems?
So last year, the governor initiated the Safe and Successful Youth Initiative. It's an initiative that is led out of our Health and Human Services office with the assistance of our public safety folks. And it's an initiative that's focused on exactly those strategies that have been successful in reducing youth violence over the years. We actually have pretty good information on the types of individuals who have tended to have difficulty, young individuals, at-risk individuals who may enter into a life of violence or be victims of violence. We have a pretty good feel from city to city and communities throughout the Commonwealth about who those folks are. So we're focused on trying to reach those very individuals and provide them with a variety of opportunities, whether it's job training opportunities, after-school programming, to keep our youth off the street and engaged, in more productive and proactive options. And so this program is specifically designed with that, and we're very grateful to the legislature. They last year have appropriated funding to help push this initiative and working closely with local communities, local law enforcement, social service agencies that are familiar with and have worked with the group, and really trying to make significant advances on ending youth violence.
Very interesting. And in terms of, you said initiative through Health and Human Services, and you also mentioned that your office supports legislation, and specifically with the Health and Human Sciences and the priority of health costs control. Tell us about that priority and the legislation that is connected to this.
Exactly. So, at the beginning, or last year, at the beginning of the current legislative session, the governor filed a bill seeking to reduce our healthcare costs. So, as you know, from several years ago, and we'd previously passed a bill that has led to fantastic access to healthcare. So now in Massachusetts, we have over 98% of our citizens have health insurance now under our law, and in fact, more than 99% of our children, have health insurance. That's fantastic. We've been able to expand access to health care. The problem is, and the thing that we continue to work on, and the governor has prioritized, is trying to reduce those health care costs. And recognizing that, over the past several years, many years, premium increases, for health care costs have continued to increase, and sometimes at a very rapid pace. And so the governor filed a bill last year that we're been in close talks with the legislature on, and know that they are working hard on it, and we're very much looking forward to having a bill advance in the legislature this session, which tries to address healthcare costs. And the primary way that it does that is, right now, the way we pay for healthcare is a fee-for-service model. You're basically paying per service that you're receiving. That can generate an incentive to have excessive costs on healthcare. And so what we're trying to shift to is a model that's more based on payment for the value of the healthcare services provided. And so that's and the quality of that healthcare instead of simply item by item payments. Mm-hmm. And so that's the general focus of the bill and what we hope the bill will accomplish. And we hope that the legislature will act on it and advance it, and that we'll be able to, through that bill, be able to help reduce costs for folks, whether they're small businesses, individuals, who are concerned about the cost of rising healthcare costs.
Mm-hmm. So we still have some minutes left, and I'd like to know what's your path to be the legal counsel?
Sure. Well, for me, I've always, when I went to law school originally, I went to Boston College Law School, and when I went there originally, I'd always wanted to serve in public service. It was most interested in going to school, but I sort of got on a little different path. I went and did a clerkship first for a federal judge, Bill Young, at the federal court, and he himself was a chief legal counsel to Governor Sargent way back in the 70s, and
you're dating yourself.
Yeah, I guess I just did, and dating him too. But so very much enjoyed my clerkship. That was a nice way to begin my career in public service. But I ended up moving on to private firms as well. So I've served in a couple of different private law firms and did work as a litigator there. But was always drawn and hopeful of entering into public service, and so that ties me to the governor. Back when I was in law school, the governor was just coming off serving for President Clinton as the Assistant Attorney General in charge of civil rights. He came, and when he came back here to Boston to begin a practice, again, he taught a civil rights course at BC Law when I was a student there. And I sort of thought to myself, as I had an opportunity to choose some classes, I thought, well, I could learn civil rights from the person who is responsible for enforcing our civil rights laws for the entire country. Maybe that's a good class to get into.
A very good class to get into.
Absolutely. So I took his class and just remember being so impressed, and both by his intelligence, his compassion, and I even remember thinking way back then, I sure hope this individual runs for office sometime, somewhere. I'd love to help him. And it took him a long time. Took him more than 10 years to do it. But when he did it, he went for it. And thankfully became our governor. So that's I stayed in close touch with him, and many years later had the opportunity to serve with him.
Well, that's an interesting trajectory, Attorney Reilly. But we've come to the conclusion to our program, and I just want to thank you very much for being here with us and giving us your time and taking off of your busy bills. You have 9 bills pending now, is that
we
what
do.
you told me?
We'll take care of those in the next couple days.
And to the members of our public, we're very grateful that you follow us, and thank you so much for watching this program. And again, please, you can see this program on our blog at www.discoveringthelaw.net. You can contact me if you'd like to see a speaker or a specific topic of the law you'd like information on it at 617-266-6001, or at my email, lucinda.rivera@discoveringthelaw.net. And again, my name is Lucy Rivera, and I am the host of your show. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you on the next segment.